Hi there, my name is Dr. Katie Saint, and this video is about figuring out where our insecurity comes from and how to overcome it. So most people are pretty insecure actually. It is hard to have a good self-esteem because when we compare ourselves to other people, it's really easy to look at something that somebody is really good at and be like, oh, I can't do that, I must suck. But we're not considering what the great things are about ourselves. Or sometimes we're not comparing apples to apples, so it might not be an equal comparison. So I want to break down a little bit where those insecurities come from and then talk through how we can build our self-esteem so we're not so busy comparing ourselves with everybody else and then concluding that we suck. So first things first, a really big reason why people have a low self-esteem is because their expectations are way too high. So we give grace to other people, but to ourselves, a lot of times we're like, well, I wasn't perfect the first time, therefore I suck. Or it took me so long to learn this new skill, I must not be very smart. So we have all of these opinions and expectations that we're supposed to be really good at something, otherwise we're no good. But the reality is professional athletes or anybody who's good at anything has spent ridiculous amounts of time practicing and learning that skill. So it's not like they were just born perfectly good at it. They put a lot of time and effort into building that skill. So a way to evaluate if you're healthy about your expectations is answering these 4 questions. So I want you to listen to the questions and then I want you to pause the video and journal or discuss with whoever you're with how you do in these areas. So number 1, do the people who know you well think your expectations are too high for yourself? So you can rate yourself at a 1, 2, or 3. A 1 would mean people think my expectations are way too high. 2 would mean pretty healthy. And then 3 would mean my expectations are actually too low. So maybe I should care a little bit more. Okay, so that's the first question. Second question, do you feel like if you fail or make a mistake, you're not good enough? So the reality is we all make mistakes, but some of us really beat ourselves up about it. Some of us obsess about it and replay it in our minds over and over again all day long, or sometimes for weeks even. So rate yourself. 3 is I get upset for days or longer if I fail. 2 is I can accept that I fail and move on. And then 3, I really don't care at all if I fail or not. So 3 indicates you should care just a little bit more. 2 is pretty healthy, and number 1 means you really beat yourself up about it. Okay, next one. Do you expect to be good at something the very first time you try it, or do you expect to just learn it super quickly? Number 1 is, yes, I'm hurt and confused when I'm not good fast enough. 2 is, I recognize that I need to practice and it'll take time and repetition. And then 3 is, I don't really think about it either way. Okay, so where would you place yourself? Last question is, do you expect everyone will like you and everyone will always be your friend? The reality is, every person alive has people who don't like them. We will never please everyone, but sometimes we feel like just so crushed when people don't like us, and it makes us feel like we're completely unlovable, and we feel awful when we experience rejection. So number 1 is, yes, I am very hurt when people don't like me, and I think about it for long periods of time. 2 is, I recognize not everyone will like me and I can focus on the close friendships that I have. Or 3, I never really think about it. So again, 3 means you should maybe care a little bit more. Sometimes when we don't care enough about certain categories, we neglect working on those things, and it creates skill deficits, which sometimes leads to low self-esteem. So for example, if you don't care about whether or not somebody likes you, and then you don't work on your social skills, you might not have very many friends. But then you might feel bad about yourself because you don't have very many friends. So that's how that works together. We need to care a little bit, but not too much. So go ahead and rate yourself on that one as well. This category is on excessive expectations. Okay, so next one is harsh self-judgment. So often we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to anyone else. So this can lead to low self-esteem. We can be so mean to ourselves. So let's look at that. Would most people agree that you evaluate yourself accurately? Some people have skills and abilities that are up here, but if you ask them, they will rate themselves so low. So do your family and friends agree with you how you would rate yourself or describe yourself? Do they think it's accurate? A 3 would mean yes. Most people think that my expectations or my way of looking at myself is completely inaccurate, totally out of whack. 2 is people think it is accurate and they think I'm pretty good at self-reflection. And then 1 is people think I don't care enough, okay? So sorry, I said that backwards. So 1 is not accurate, 2 is healthy, that yep, people agree, and then 3 is I don't care enough. Okay, so next question is, would most people agree with your assessment of how you're liked by peers? So this is a really common thing that people struggle with, where they are well liked. A lot of people want to be friends with them and care about them a lot. But if you ask them, like, do those people care about you, or did they reject you at that last party? They would say, yeah, like nobody likes me, like nobody wanted me there, but it's not true at all. So this is a really common thing that we inaccurately see rejection where it isn't. So evaluate yourself. What do you guys think? Would most people agree that your reflection on whether or not peers or family friends like you is accurate? 3 is nope, people think I'm way off base and I assume rejection too much. Number 2 is people think I'm accurate and I can assess that successfully. And then 3 is people think that I assume people like me more than I do. They do. So that's a problem too, where people aren't picking up on the social cues of, hey, like that person thinks you're going on and on and on and wants you to stop talking, but you're not picking up on it. So sometimes we don't see rejection when we should. So go ahead and self-evaluate yourself. Remember to pause the video in between these questions so you can journal or talk about it and process these questions so you can accurately analyze where you're at with this stuff. Because if we target where we struggle, we're going to get healthier. We're going to improve our self-esteem. Okay, next one. Would most people agree with your evaluation of how successful you are in different categories of your life? So again, you might do an awesome job on a project or something that you're working on, and people might praise the crap out of it, and then you might look at it and be like, this is junk, this is garbage, this is not good enough. And you might even be embarrassed about it and be like, I don't want anyone to see this. You know, so sometimes we look at the things we do and we're like, this is embarrassing and horrible, but everybody else thinks it's great. So to assess yourself in this, again, would most people agree with your accuracy in assessing your ability to do things? Or number 1, do they think that you are way off base and way too negative? 2, do they think you're accurate? Or 3, do they think you're overconfident and you're like, I'm awesome all the time? Because that's dangerous too. If we are too confident in our abilities and not reflecting accurately, we're going to make mistakes and we're not going to do as well. We need to be able to recognize our flaws and when we make mistakes, and we need to recognize that all people have flaws. So if you're not good at something, or if you make a mistake, or if you have room for improvement, that means you're human. And that's how we grow and get better and better. So we need to not be threatened by that. We need to embrace that so that we can just continue to be the best versions of ourselves possible. Okay, so next is, are you able to list at least 5 positive things about yourself? Some people can't, and that's a problem because every person alive has strengths. And so we need to be able to recognize them. It's not arrogant to say, hey, I'm good at this. Yes, you don't want to brag about it and rub it in people's faces, but if somebody asks you directly to list 5 things about yourself, you should be able to do it. So go ahead and assess yourself. 3 would be, no, I can't list 5 things about myself. 2 is, yeah, I can probably come up with 5 things. And 3 is, I honestly can't think of anything good or bad. That's a problem too. We need to be able to self-reflect and see things in both categories. That's how we improve and grow. Okay, next one is, do you struggle with comparing yourself to others? Okay, this is a trap that we get in and we self-sabotage. Sometimes social media fuels it. We maybe look at other people's highlights like, oh man, look at them, they're so happy, they have such a glorious life and it's so much better than mine. I suck so bad because I'm not as good as them. But you're looking at people's highlights. You're looking at their best moments that they're trying to celebrate and comparing them to your dark moments that people don't see. So it's not apples to apples. We so often compare ourselves to other people and then feel like crap. So it's just not healthy to play the comparison game. So how do you do with that, okay? Do you assume, number 1, most everyone's better than me? Number 2, I recognize that there will always be people that are better or worse than me. And then 3, I never think about how I compare to people. That's unhealthy too. So all of these things are a spectrum. The reality is, no matter where you are in life, no matter how successful you are, there will be people who have things you don't, and there will be people who wish they had what you have. So comparison, it's not a good measure for us to see how we're doing. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next category. Again, remember to pause and reflect on these questions so you can accurately reflect where you're at. So next is preoccupation with fear. So in order to have a good self-esteem, it is not something that you just talk through and then you're better. It's actually something that you have to take action. You need to face your fears, face the things that make you insecure, and do it afraid. And through repetition, you will prove to yourself, I'm more capable than I realized. I did this, I was terrified, I thought I was gonna fail, but I didn't, and I'm getting better and better at it. So when we absolutely refuse to face things, we make our fear grow, and it makes our self-esteem even worse. So I have some questions here to help you self-reflect on where you're at with fear. So number 1, do you often go out of your comfort zone? Do you often avoid going out of your comfort zone? So number 1 is, yes, I hate it. I will avoid it at all costs. Number 2 is, I'll do it if I think it's valuable. And then number 3 is, I'm not sure if I do or not. Okay, so going out of your comfort zone is so important. If we stay in our comfort zone forever, it's going to lead to isolation, low self-esteem, and depression. Okay, so we need to stretch ourselves. Next, if you faced your fear, could you be more successful? So are there areas of your life that you're not doing something because of fear? And if you were willing to face that fear, you would actually be more successful? Take some time to think about that. Okay, so number 1 is absolutely, but my fear is too powerful. Number 2 is, I think I'm in a good place. And number 3 is, I really don't know. So again, we need to take time to reflect on these things, we should know if our motivation for not doing something is based in fear. A really good rule for you to have for your life is, if fear is the only reason I'm not doing it, then I should face it. So sometimes fear is useful, right? Like, I'm afraid to jump off the roof of my house because I know I'll get hurt. Okay, so that's logical, healthy fear. But a lot of times our fear isn't. So we need to analyze that. Okay, so if something's too stressful, do you refuse, avoid, or quit? Okay, so sometimes we're willing to face our fears, but then if it gets to be too much, we're like, nope, nope, I'm out. You know, and that's dangerous too. That's self-sabotaging. So how would you rate yourself? Number 1 is, yes, I avoid stress. I will avoid it if it gets too intense. Number 2 is, I will face it if it's meaningful goals that I'm working towards. And then the other one, number 3 is, I will only attend if someone forces me, or I'm just really not sure at all. So this is a good area to work on. Next, if you think you'll fail, do you avoid it? This is so common. So many people won't play games, won't play sports, won't socialize because they predict failure. If I can't be perfect at it, it's not fun for me. If I'm not going to be whatever at it, if I can't be successful, I don't want to do it. Well, we hurt relationships when we do this. We limit our life. We limit our success. We need to be willing to be bad at something, because everybody's bad when they first start something. And a lot of times socially, we're going to do things together with people where we are horrible at it. But winning isn't the point, or being the best isn't the point. The point is connecting with people. So you have to be willing to accept, I'm not going to be the best all the time, and that's okay. If I'm not the best, that doesn't mean people will reject me or I don't have value. So go ahead and rate yourself. How are you doing with this? Number 1 is, yes, if I think I will fail, I really don't want to do it. Number 2, I recognize that sometimes I might fail, but I'm willing to face it. And then number 3 is, I really don't think about it at all. So this is a really good one for you to analyze, because so many people limit their lives because of this. The last category that I want you to think about is, could you develop a skill and actually practice something that will give you a better self-esteem? A lot of times the things we feel bad about are based in skill deficits that if we practiced and worked on, we could really improve, and then we could be confident in that area. So take some time to analyze where you're at with it. You know, do you need to practice something? Do you need to target a skill? So what I would like you to do now is look through all of your answers and pick your target points. If you indicate that you struggle in some of these areas with the questions that I listed, that means you need to challenge those areas. You need to face those things so that you can get healthier. You can have a stronger self-confidence. We will not improve our confidence if we don't put ourselves out there. Confidence is improved by action. So find some action steps for yourself that you can do today to work on it. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. I hope this video was helpful.